Hey everybody, and welcome to the kitchen. I am sorry, I'm running a minute or two late. I just decided today, I woke up and I really felt like putting together a dish that we only had on special occasions. It was a dish that a couple of my aunts made. And hello Richard, how are you? Richard from Charlottesville. So I thought we would whip up some ricotta and veal meatballs. If you're not a veal person, I get it, that's okay. And you can certainly sub out, but with this recipe, it really is all about the delicate flavor of the veal, and it's complemented with the ricotta cheese. Bill Senso, good to see you. I poured myself a little glass of wine. I hope you guys are having a great week. I hope you had a great Christmas. Hello Gidra, good to see you. Merry Christmas to you. We're excited about the new year. Once again, we'll be just celebrating amongst ourselves, but that's all right. It is good to have sometimes quiet family celebrations. Hello, Mary. Good to see you. So tonight, I don't know what you guys are pouring. I poured myself, I wanted something a little not quite as dry as a cab, so I poured myself a Napa Valley Merlot. I don't know. I think I got that at Costco. It's a 2016, so it should be pretty tasty. Hello, Cardinal. Good to see you. Hope you had a great Christmas. I'm drinking that, but I'm pouring, I'm using Chardonnay in my sauce tonight, and I'll tell you why. Come up a little bit. So, this is a meatball recipe that I don't make very often. And hey, Richard Hibbs is watching. Liz, how are you? This is a recipe that, again, was a very special occasion recipe. We didn't get it except around the holidays or somebody requested them for their birthday. And it requires veal, which I have right here, and I'm going to put that into our, about a pound. I'm going to work with a pound of veal. This is slightly over a pound of veal, but that's okay. We'll deal with that. You need a couple of eggs. You need a cup of Parmesan cheese. You need a half a cup of ricotta cheese, and I like the whole milk kind. Oh, my sauce is bubbling. Hold on. Let's turn that down. Anyway, and you just need a little bit of breadcrumb. It's not like regular meatballs, and these are really rich. Obviously, they're going to be amazingly flavorful, but different than the meatballs that you might normally make. Very much different than the meatball recipe that I shared, our family meatball, which is beef, pork, veal, and a lot of breadcrumb, a lot of egg. This is a little bit more delicate in terms of flavor, but also very intense and rich. So I'm going to make smaller meatballs out of this. We're going to fry them off. Hello, Joanne. Good to see you. Hope you guys are having a great week. Here we are between holidays, excited about New Year's. So I've got a couple of large eggs, and I'm going to point you down here so you can see what we're going to do. So we're going to make these together. I haven't made these in a long, long time. So this is going to be good practice for me. Here's my Parmesan cheese. Whoops. This is just a little bit of flat leaf Italian parsley. It's dried up a little bit, but I got it mixed in with some other Italian seasonings. I'm going to put that into the egg. That way I know that when I pour my egg into the meat mixture, the cheese mixture, that it's going to get, that's about 2 teaspoons of nice flat leaf Italian parsley. If you get it fresh, you want to use a little bit more. If you get it dry, you can use a little less because the flavors are more intense. So we're going to whip up the egg. We're going to hold off on the cheese just yet. We got our 2 types of cheese. I got a half a cup of breadcrumbs. That's it. I'm using just the Italian seasoned breadcrumbs. You can find them already. And a little bit of garlic. I like literally, that's about a clove and a half. Just a little bit of garlic to put in here. Because, again, it's not quite like the normal meatballs that you may be used to making, that I'm used to making. This is something that is pretty special and extraordinary. Now, I did wash my hands before we got started, so don't worry about that. I hope everybody's staying safe and doing a lot of hand washing and mask wearing and all that good stuff, because, man, the cases are climbing. Hate to bring that up while we're making dinner, but it is, something we got to deal with it as we head into the new year. All right, we got our veal. So you just want to make sure, and if you get your veal from your butcher, ask him to grind it very fine. That's what you really want to do. So you want to make sure you do that. The finer to grind on the veal, the more delicate the flavors in the meatball are going to be, and you're going to like it a lot better. And I need my dish rag. There it is. All right. So we got our veal. in there. And now we're going to add about a half a cup of this ricotta cheese. Now, some recipes tell you to dry the ricotta overnight. Put it in a sieve, wrap it in cheesecloth, weight it down and let it dry overnight. I did not do that. This is just fresh ricotta, but I think that's going to be just fine. I don't remember in my family recipes, the aunts that used to make this, I don't recall them ever drying the ricotta, although, you know, they got different ricotta than we get these days. So I'm going to put, this is a 16-ounce container, so I'm going to put about half of that in there. All right. I've seen some of these recipes call for as much as a 1-to-1 ratio, ricotta to veal. And that, I think, would be incredibly rich and amazingly tasty, but gosh, I think that's going to be hard to cook with. Pardon me a second. I'm just coming over here to wash off my hands because I've got veal and cheese on them. So we just want to get cleaned up. So this is a dish that I'm making a different kind of sauce with as well. The sauce I'm going to use tonight on a little angel hair pasta. I was just really craving this morning when I got up. Hi there. The sauce I'm making, I use some chopped tomatoes, my usual, those nice cans of chopped tomatoes that I get, and I put in no onion, so it's going to be a little sweeter sauce, a little bit of garlic, some fresh garlic that I chopped up, and I just kind of sauteed that in a little olive oil. Then I added my tomatoes and my basil, and now I'm adding a little white wine because I think these meatballs, because they are, you know, made with the ricotta and the veal, they're a little more delicate, so I'm making a little bit more delicate of a sauce. That's about a cup of white wine. And you know, what I do is I just pour the wine into my tomato can, and that way I make sure I get all of my tomato out of the can. And so this is a very light, very simple sauce, a little salt, a little pepper. You can throw in some Italian seasoning. I did not put any oregano in here at all. Hello, Michael Matthews. Good to see you. Maureen's watching. I got my pasta water ready to go when the sauce is ready. I'm going to fry the meatballs in my fryer like this. You can roll them around, but I recommend using vegetable oil, not olive oil, because remember that olive oil has such a low smoke point. All right, so we've got the meat and the ricotta in here. I'm going to add my Parmesan. And it's about 8 ounces of Parmesan. It was funny, I went to the store and I could not find grated Parmesan. All I could find was the shredded stuff, and I don't like to use the shredded Parmesan. I got to put my garlic in there. So we got to do that. Throw the garlic in there, just like that. So I had to come home. I had to buy the shredded Parmesan, and then I had to come home and fire up the blender and turn the shredded into grated. And now we're going to add our breadcrumb. This is a half a cup of breadcrumb. And with meatballs, and you guys have probably, I'm sure, made them before. Hey, Molly, nice to see you. Hi, Paul, good to see you. You know, my grandmother's Italian meatball recipe requires a whole lot of egg. Andrea's watching. I thought she was supervising the kids. The kids are painting their room. Very exciting project. I didn't know we had all that stuff in the room. Now, before I put the egg in, I'm going to mix the cheese and all of the dry ingredients, okay? So we're just going to, you get your hands dirty making this recipe. There's no two ways about it, because you got the ricotta in there, we got our breadcrumbs, we got our garlic. You want to make sure it's nicely distributed. And remember, I put the flat leaf parsley and the Italian seasonings in the egg, so we'll add that in just a little bit. But I want to get all of my dry ingredients incorporated into the meat, and not that the ricotta is exactly dry. And then we're going to put some salt and pepper in there, and then we're going to add our egg, and it's going to sit for a little bit so that the egg can be absorbed. Now you can see that we're getting a really, I mean, that's just such a pretty mixture. The veal is so light and delicate, and then we've got the ricotta cheese in there. This is going to be a very different kind of meatball, and I know a couple of restaurants around here that make them. I know that Mindy over at Zen makes a great veal and ricotta meatball. So if you don't feel like making this, you can certainly find them, but sometimes making stuff at home is kind of a nice way to go, especially right now when we're so limited. All right, now I got stuff all over me, so I got to be very careful about how I do this because I don't want to make a mess with the tripod. I got to wash my hands again. So we're going to mix all that. I'm going to let it sit. I'm going to add the egg in just a moment. But this is very unique. It's a little different. Like I said, we never had it except at Christmas. I think I told you guys this story. You know, our Christmas was a little different. We did the 7 fishes when I was growing up as a kid. We certainly did that. But one of the things then that happened was after you had the Feast of the 7 Fishes, everybody went to Mass. 2 aunts of mine stayed behind, and they made the dinner. So we had the fish, we had, you know, the shrimp, we had the bacala, we had all of that good stuff that you expect in an Italian 7 fishes feast. And then everybody went to Mass. The kids went and took a nap, the little ones. The older ones went to Mass with the parents. So a little pepper, fresh cracked pepper. And then when we came back from Mass, there was a pork roast, there were meatballs, and usually they were these meatballs. Because again, a special occasion. So I thought since we're still in the holiday spirit, I'll put a little salt in there. Now, I've got Parmesan, and the ricotta has a little bit of saltiness to it, so you don't need to put a lot of salt. Gauge that. Yeah, you can always add more salt later, but you can never take it out. All right, we've got our meat, dry ingredients mixed in there, and I'm going to add the egg, and then we're going to kind of mix it again. So I'm just going to do that, and I'm going to move this microphone so it'll be easier for me to go wash my hands. This way you should be able to hear. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to mix this in, and then we're going to let it sit for a little bit. Then we're going to form our meatballs. So while I'm letting it sit for just a moment, cheers. Wishing you guys a very, very happy 2021 as we get ready to wrap up this year and bring in the new. As always, I post the recipes. They live here on my Facebook page, but you can find them on YouTube. Patrick Evans Cooking, a very original title. It's free. It's just you do. I think the way the protocol is, and I'm no YouTube expert, but I think you have to subscribe. Once you subscribe, you're going to get all of the content. It's free. It doesn't cost anything, but you do have to make up a YouTube account. Or use your Gmail account or something like that. It's easy to do, but all of the recipes are there, including, if you go back to some of the earlier things I was doing very early on in the pandemic, I did our family, the regular meatball recipe, the beef, pork, veal, and there's a little secret ingredient in there. I would really encourage you to go back and watch that. All right, we're mixing all that. I want to make sure, because remember, I put some of my seasoning into the egg, so I want to make sure that my liquid is properly incorporated throughout the entirety. And you can see that ricotta's in there. You can tell there's a lot of cheese content in these meatballs. When I fry them up, and I'm just gonna get a crust on them, and then I'm gonna throw them in the sauce. So that's all we're gonna do. You can pan fry them, which, you know, just takes more patience than I have. And the one thing about pan frying is if you don't get them to the right firmness and consistency, they tend to flatten out on you. When I throw them in the fryer the way I'm going to do it, they tend to hold their meatball shape, which is kind of nice. Now we got to let that sit for a minute. So that's going to sit, and just let the egg be absorbed into the meat, the breadcrumbs and the meat and the cheese mixture. I'm just washing my hands. But if you love meatballs and you love ricotta, you're going to love this recipe because it really is something pretty special. All right, we're just going to let that sit for just a couple of minutes. I want it to firm up. And normally I make a good-sized meatball. Not quite baseball size, but a good-sized meatball. These are going to be a little smaller, not quite cocktail size, but they're very rich. The flavors are light with the veal, but they are still very rich. So we're going to let those set up for a little bit. John Santucci's one now. There's a guy who knows how to cook a little Italian food. John Nathaniel's also watching. John, Merry Christmas to you. Happy New Year. Thank you guys for tuning in. once again, just having a little Merlot this evening because it's going to go super nice with the angel hair pasta and these meatballs that I'm making. Adair is watching. Thank you very much. Speaking of the sauce, while that's firming up, I got to stir my sauce. And this is a little bit lighter tomato sauce than we normally serve in our house. In fact, it's almost like the sauce you would make with a cacciatore, because it's got, hey Jan, how are you? Happy New Year. It's got a little white wine in it, not the red wine, and not a lot of Italian seasoning. All right, now what I'm going to do, I think we've let that sit. And you can, when you're letting it sit, what I like to do typically, because I put a lot more egg in my meatball, what I do is I just throw a towel over it and leave it for a little while. But in my typical family meatball recipe, we use a lot of egg. This is only 2 eggs, so it shouldn't take that long, and it looks like it's firmed up pretty nicely. So now we're going to form our meatballs, and we're going to fry them off in batches a little bit at a time. So I just want to make sure you don't want it too soft, because again, you want them to hold their nice shape. And the one thing you don't want to do when you're making a meatball is you don't want to work it and pack it in. Just by the kind of the tips of your fingers. This way you get a much lighter meatball. There's not a lot of fill in this. There's only about a half a cup of breadcrumb. It is beef and cheese, meat and cheese, veal and cheese, and it's 2 different kinds of cheese. So this is going to be, but because it is veal, it's going to be a little bit lighter. I'm going to put that in the basket. It seems to be holding its shape pretty well. All right, you can see, I think this is about a golf ball, maybe a little bit bigger size meatball. So normally I like to make them, I like a meal when I eat a meatball. I want the whole thing, I don't want to be hungry after a meatball. These are a little bit smaller, but trust me, with all the ricotta and the richness of the cheese, they are going to be plenty. It looks like I'm only going to be able to get 4 or 5 in that basket, but that's okay. And again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop them into the fryer in our hot oil. Let's see who's watching. Jamie's watching, Laura. Tony Sons is watching, and Freddie, oh my gosh. Tony and Freddie from Fantasy Springs. I am honored, gentlemen. Freddie, you got to tell me if I'm doing it right, but tell me privately. Freddie, of course, Chef Freddie from Fantasy Springs. He's with us every week on Eye in the Desert. And Tony's the food and bev guy down at Fantasy Springs. Great guys. When I was about to ask Andrea to marry me, hey Patty, nice to see you. She didn't know I was going to surprise her. We were at the Sinatra golf tournament, so it was a crazy time for everybody. But Tony made sure that there was champagne ready to go when I popped the question. I popped the question in a room full of Italians so that I knew my wife could not say no. It would be ill-advised to say no in that crowd. So it worked out pretty well. So nice to see you, Tony and Chef Freddie. Happy New Year to you guys down at Fantasy Springs, the whole team. They do a great job. All right, I got 5 meatballs. Veal, ricotta cheese, Parmesan cheese, some Italian seasonings, but very light on the Italian seasoning. All right, and I get 5 in that basket. They're not going to expand when I cook them, so I don't have to worry about that. Hold on, we're going to, once again, it's always about washing one's hands when you're doing this, especially working with meat products, egg. There are lots of good reasons that you want to keep your hands nice and clean throughout this process. So, all right, let's come over to the deep fryer. It's not really a deep fryer, it's just a pan. I decided not to take out the deep fryer today because this is just easier to clean up. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put you guys down in here, down on the low level so you can see what's happening. All right. And let me hook up my mic someplace where we can hear what's happening. I don't like to be tethered to it. This will work. Right there. Okay, now what we're gonna do, the oil's hot, but I haven't got it like super hot because I don't wanna scald these babies. I just wanna get a crust on them, and then we're gonna throw them in the sauce. Hi Ruby, nice to see you. Thanks for tuning in. I woke up this morning and I was really craving this dish, and that's why I decided to do it. I didn't think I was going to be cooking this week, but, you know, it's always nice to... All right, so here we go. Look at those. They're looking beautiful. Well, they're rolling around. All right, let's just drop them in. That's perfect. We're going to let them roll around. I can put a little heat back under it. Remember, as soon as you put something into your oil like this, the oil loses temperature. So you can turn the heat back up. I just didn't want to smoke it, and I didn't want to burn the outside of these because they're too beautiful to do that. And what I'm going to do is get them to a nice golden brown, and then we're going to throw them in the sauce. And they're going to finish cooking in the sauce. I'm just going to roll them with a fork like that. I think it's a little bright there, so maybe that'll help. Okay, I'll lift up the camera so you can see what's going on here. One day we're going to have a kitchen with a camera and the overhead hood, and it'll be nice and fancy. Oh, these are smelling great already. Okay, just take a look at this. I'm going to lift you guys up, see what you can get a look at here. And you can see how these meatballs are coming along. Already looking very nice. And once again, we just want to roll them around, get them browned evenly all over the place, just like that. Oh, that looks good. And I'm not going to get them too crispy on the outside because I am going to toss them into the sauce. And the sauce, again, is chopped tomatoes, fresh basil, a little bit of garlic, no onion, because it's a very sweet sauce I'm putting on this. It's sweet by, I don't mean like sugary sweet, but not a lot of savoriness from the onion. Look at the crust we're getting on these meatballs. This is absolutely, and I gotta tell you, I haven't made these in a long time. This is sort of an experiment for me. It's fun to do it with you guys. And if they don't turn out well, just don't tell anybody, okay? So let's see. Turn the light off. I did. Who's that? That's Richard Herwig, who's usually my cameraman. Tammy's watching. Thanks, Tammy. Oh, I wiped away I want to see the comments. All right, so, oops, my handle came off my deep fryer. That is a problem we can solve pretty quickly. There we go. All right. I'm going to let these cook just a little bit more, but not much. I want you guys to see the color on these. They are absolutely gorgeous. Again, veal, ricotta. Look at those, huh? I'm going to put the light back on for the, yeah, that doesn't really help. All right, there you go. So I'm going to cook them just a little bit more, but not much. And then we're going to throw them in the sauce, which is simmering over here. I'll turn up the heat on my sauce. I don't know if you guys can see this sauce. Take a look at this. This is very pretty. Look at that. That's nice. And again, it's got white wine. It's got a lot of fresh parsley. Not parsley, basil. A lot of fresh basil. And it has got a little bit of garlic and a little bit of Italian seasoning. No oregano. I didn't put any oregano in this. Normally I put a lot of oregano in my pasta sauces because I like the oregano flavor, but this is going to be just a little less savory because I want to balance the flavor of these veal and ricotta meatballs, which are rich, but it is a lighter flavor. All right, veal and ricotta meatballs with a little delicious Parmesan Reggiano. Okay, these are ready to go in the sauce. I want you guys to take a look at this. I don't want to drip hot oil all over the place, but I want you to get a really good look at these meatballs because they are gorgeous. Look at that. Now, they look a little darker because the lighting isn't great in here, but they're not. They're just a nice golden brown. Okay, look at that, see? And now we're going to put them right in our sauce. So I'm going to put them into our sauce, which is simmering over here. Oh, I don't want to bust them up. Easy, fellas. Just go in nice. Don't splash. Thank you. It's just like when putting kids in the pool. Nobody splash. Everybody get in. Take it easy. There you go. There's always one that wants to come in off the high dive. All right. Now, they're all in my sauce. And those are going to simmer along beautifully. So we've got that batch going. And now we're going to come over here and roll out another batch of making a mess, but don't tell my wife. Oh, she's watching, I forgot. The kids are making more of a mess, though, because they're painting. There's Sharon Bell. Hello there. All right, so that's it, guys. This is, and I'm going to pull it out of the sauce in a second. I'm just going to roll out another batch. It's that easy. It's a little bit different kind of meatball, a little bit different kind of flavor, and I think you're going to love it. Serve it for special occasions. They're not quite as heavy as my usual meatballs, although I'll tell you the secret. You can go watch the recipe on the YouTube thing. Freddie says, if you make, all right, Freddie says it looks like Sunday at his house. Freddie, how often do you make the ricotta meatballs? Ricotta and veal. I'm curious. Normally, I make it with the beef, pork, and veal, but my grandmother always put in, get this, for 2 pounds of meat, she put in at least 8 eggs. All right? And so the regular meatballs that we make, even though it's beef, pork, veal, it sounds kind of heavy, with all of that egg and just a little bit of breadcrumb, they were really light and fluffy. They'd float off the plate. So go back and watch that recipe. It's on the YouTube channel, Patrick Evans Cooking. I want to wish everybody a very happy New Year. I hope you had a great Christmas. We certainly did. It was a very different Christmas this year. Last year we were in Lithuania. So it was a great Christmas being abroad and seeing all the lights and the Christmas markets. This year, family, friends, and it was still a fantastic Christmas. Every other Sunday, Chef Freddie makes the ricotta meatballs frequently. I got to turn the heat down on my sauce here, but I'm going to pull one of these babies. Look at that. Now that, ladies and gentlemen, is the way a meatball ought to look. So, light, delicious. I'm going to set it there. Don't fall in. I'm going to turn this light off so you can see it better. Look at that. All right. They're going to simmer for a little while. I'm going to let them simmer for at least another half hour to about 45 minutes. They'll be done all the way through by then, and I'm going to enjoy that. We're going to have that tonight with some angel hair pasta in my sauce, which I said is a very light sauce, fresh chopped tomatoes, a little white wine, some garlic, and a lot of fresh basil chopped up in there, and just a little Italian seasoning. Happy New Year to everybody. We'll be back next week in the kitchen, probably at our usual date on Thursday. This was sort of a spur of the moment because I was craving it. So I thought, what the heck, I'll make it tonight. Because tomorrow, there will no be, I'm not cooking tomorrow. I'm playing golf tomorrow. Haven't done that in a while. Really looking forward to getting out on a golf course. So looking forward to spending a little time out there. Lori Bono, thank you very much for watching, Cardinal. Happy New Year, everybody. Celebrate safely. Be careful. We are wishing for much better things in 2021. And as I declared on Facebook, we're going to call it 2020 Fun. We got a long way to go, but let's try to all get back to normal. And for those people who have, especially those businesses that have been really suffering, once things open up, let's go back and support our local businesses and restaurants. Thanks again for spending some time with me in the kitchen. It's always fun cooking with you guys. Happy New Year, and we'll see you next week.